the keys are to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49er Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the show. News update show here in this bye week. Lots of stuff going on for the 49ers. They continue to make roster moves. They continue to have conversations with the media that spark more conversations. We're going to get all into that into this episode. Really excited to be here to talk with you because there's just things going on. I mean, this is the thing with the 49ers. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Content keeps coming out. And I want to go through some of it today. I think there's some newsworthy things that I haven't got the chance to talk about yet. One of those was a big move the 49ers made on the trade deadline. The 49ers decided that they were going to go ahead and move on from a running back in Jeff Wilson Jr. This was a very interesting move for the 49ers, but a move that it makes a lot of sense. The 49ers were able to get a fifth round pick from the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins, of course, had traded a fifth-round pick to the 49ers before for Matt Breida. So this is not something uncommon. The difference here is Mike McDaniel is now the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. So you know that Jeff Wilson Jr. is going to be taken care of, and he's going to be fitting into a offense and a role that he's going to understand. And some things came out to clear things up about why they moved Jeff Wilson Jr. Of course, they were going to have a log jam at the running back position, but part of the reason they moved Jeff Wilson Jr. is after the Christian McCaffrey trade, he went to Kyle Shanahan to talk about what his usage was going to be and the potential for him to get moved so that way he had an opportunity elsewhere. I think the 49ers, with the young players that they had on this team, it made a lot of sense once you had Christian McCaffrey to go ahead and move on from Jeff Wilson Jr. Now, what was Wilson's value? Fifth-round pick is pretty good. I think that, for a guy that was undrafted, that's a major uptick. As far as compensation, I think Jeff Wilson Jr. is a good football player. I think he's going to go help Miami. But the 49ers, did a couple things. Number one, they got a draft pick back. They had used a fifth rounder to get Christian McCaffrey, so now they add to that. They now have 9 picks available in next year's draft. It's two third round compensation picks. They got 3 fifths now, so 3 fifth-round picks, 1 sixth-round pick, and 3 seventh-round picks. That's how the 9 picks rounds out. Of course, if DeMeco Ryans ends up getting a head coaching job, you will add a 10th pick to that. But the 49ers are definitely have enough draft capital. Do they have anything in the first 100 picks? No, they don't. So they're going to be picking later in the rounds, but so far they've shined in those situations. They've came up with some really good players at the end of the 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round. Of course, 5th being the main one, but they even struck in the 4th with a guy like Spencer Burford, and in the 6th with Elijah Mitchell. So the 49ers definitely have the ability in the scouting department to be able to use those picks to their advantage. But getting a pick back was smart instead of having to release a player, especially if you did not have to. One of the reasons it was easier to go ahead and release Jeff Wilson Jr. is because Elijah Mitchell is going to be coming back. And it was probably within an hour of Jeff Wilson Jr. officially being moved to Miami that the news came out from Matt Maiocco that he had heard within the organization that Elijah Mitchell was, in fact, going to be able and prepared to play against the Los Angeles Chargers. I think that's good news. You're getting a guy back with explosiveness. He's a running back 1 caliber player, and now you're adding him to a running back room that already consists of an all-pro caliber player, Christian McCaffrey. This is the 1-2 punch I think the 49ers have always wanted. This is going to be fantastic to watch these two guys together. Mitchell, of course, coming off the sprained knee that he got against Chicago Bears in week 1. Wow, it's been a long time since that game, and now he's back, and he's been injured. So, I mean, that was part of the reason I think a lot of people were concerned about Jeff Wilson Jr. moving on, but you're going to have TDP there as well. You have Jordan Mason, both of those guys, young rookie players who have a lot of potential. And in case you need them, you have Tevin Coleman on the practice squad. So 49ers have a lot of depth at the running back position, but they just got a lot better with the addition of Elijah Mitchell. Mitchell can stay healthy. Him and Christian McCaffrey are going to be dynamic running the football. You now don't fall off any, maybe a little bit, because Christian McCaffrey's pretty special, especially in the receiving game. But Elijah Mitchell's going to afford you opportunities to go in there, give McCaffrey breaks, and Mitchell can go get those tough yards that you need. He doesn't turn over the football. Those are all good things, and that's an advantage over Jeff Wilson Jr. I love Jeff Wilson Jr., but Elijah Mitchell is faster. He reads better. He's got more elusiveness. He doesn't turn over the football. He's just a better running back than Jeff Wilson Jr. That's why you can go ahead and move. If you wanted to have as spoils of riches, you could have kept him, but you would have had to move on from a young player. So the 49ers have Elijah Mitchell coming back, which is good news. One thing that came out that was interesting was young rookie player Danny Gray hasn't been getting a lot of opportunities, and the 49ers haven't really been running him out there. He's been a healthy scratch a couple of times, and a lot of people are wondering, hey, what's going on with Danny Gray? Why is he not out there? Well, Kyle Shanahan took the KNBR and kind of talked about the fact that he's just not ready to do all the other things. He's not consistent. This is similarly to what we heard about Brandon Ayuk. Ayuk wasn't consistent with his route running. And what Kyle's saying is, look, he can run certain routes, but you can't have him out there only running certain routes. He can't be a specialty receiver. You need a guy that can do it all. You need a guy that can run every route in the route tree. You need a guy that can make all the blocks. We know how important blocking is for the 49ers. Look at their wide receiver room. And Brandon Ayuk has been fantastic blocking this year. Jawan Jennings, really good. Ray with huge blocks in the game. To play in the 49ers system and play for Kyle Shanahan, you have to run consistent routes. They have to look the same every single time. And you have to be able to block. And Danny Gray just hasn't been able to do that yet. And this makes a lot of sense. You can't just have him out there to take the top off the defense. Then the defense understands when he's in there what is going on, and they just don't pay as much attention to it. Is there still some opportunities for him to go downfield? Of course there is. But that means you can only limit his snaps. He only played in 5 snaps last week. You can't get on the field more than that because you don't understand exactly where you're supposed to be. And Kyle Shanahan actually brought that up. You need to know where you're supposed to line up. But I think Danny Gray is still kind of acclimating himself to the NFL and to Kyle Shanahan's system. So I think we're going to see Danny Gray used more in the future. This is going to be more of a redshirt year the same way that some other players have had it. Could he make an impact as the season progresses? Absolutely. He can continue to grow in this offense. Kyle Shanahan could get more comfortable with him playing wide receiver for him, and then he could use him. But there's been opportunities down the field for other players, including Ray McLeod. McLeod's had opportunities to go downfield, so it's not like they have to have Danny Gray to be able to get the ball and push the ball downfield. You can do it with a variety of different players, including now Christian McCaffrey, who you've added to the running back room. So that is part of the reason Gray's not being used, and Kyle Shanahan kind of letting them in on it. He said he feels good about the wide receiver position, but he said you always listen. So that was a little nod to the fact that people are tying the 49ers to Odell Beckham Jr., saying you never know. And I think that is the smart way to go about it. One news story that was a little bit disappointing was the passing of John McVeigh. John McVeigh, of course, the grandfather of Sean McVay, the Rams coach. But he was so much more than that. And he's a member of the 49ers Hall of Fame and well worth it. He was a part of a front office that built some of the greatest football teams in the history of the NFL. And just a really, really good guy. John McVeigh passed away at the age of 91. Not exactly the best news, but remembering his life and all of his contributions and things that he did, I think is very important, and just a really good guy and member of the NFL alumni. So prayers for his family, Sean McVay and his family. Hopefully everyone, is doing okay, and hopefully John McVay is in a better place now, enjoying, the second part of his existence. But great career that John McVay had. Sad to see him go. But, he was one of the good ones. And next up, the 49ers had a bunch of players that came in for workouts on Monday. I have Mohamed Sanu in the picture here because Mohamed Sanu was one of those. 49ers were working out wide receivers and they were working out defensive backs. And the list is kind of long, but let's go through the wide receivers that they worked out first. Of course, Mohamed Sanu, everyone's familiar with him. He's been with the 49ers a couple of different occasions, and he was back to work out. It reminds me of like when Tevin Coleman came to work out, but also they got wide receiver Adam Humphries that came in. Austin Mack, who was with the 49ers during training camp. I was a big fan of him during training camp. He had some drops in the preseason games, which I think really hurt his opportunities to make this team, but he came in for a workout. And then wide receiver Tajay Sharp as well came in for a workout. Now, as far as defensive backs, that Benji Franklin came in, defensive back Amon Marshall, defensive back Troy Pride. So those were the guys that came in for workouts. So far, the 49ers did not elect, to move any of those guys, or sign any of those guys. So right now, the 49ers are standing pat. With the trade of Jeff Wilson Jr., they have 2 roster spots open. They had released Akeem Spence. He was released from the active roster. Then they traded Jeff Wilson Jr. One of those positions and one of those spots is for Elijah Mitchell when he's activated from the IR. What is the other one for? I think is they're trying to figure it out. But Willie Snead also he was cut after the football game, and then now he's re-signed to the practice squad. Akeem Spence was cut. Now he's been re-signed to the practice squad. And then the 49ers cut Malik Turner. He had used every single one of his elevations to the active roster, so they needed to go ahead and release him and move on, and they've done so. So those were some of the moves that the 49ers have been working on and doing. And of course, now they have, space to be able to make other moves. They have guys potentially coming back over the next couple of weeks. With Elijah Mitchell coming back for the Chargers, Azeez Al-Shire is a couple weeks behind that, according to Kyle Shanahan. The first time that Kinlaw could come off IR is against the Cardinals. That'll be the second game after the bye. So potentially that's when he could become available. Colton McKivitz closer to the Dolphins game in the early part of December. So the 49ers are getting close to getting reinforcements, as well as Eric Armstead, who should be coming back here pretty soon. Hopefully he'll be back by the time the 49ers lace him up and play the Chargers. But it's one of those things where there's a lot of news coming out from the 49ers. Not a lot of big news, but things to definitely stay up to date on. But the 49ers are, they're still building this roster. They're doing a pretty good job. I'm excited about 49ers team and where they're headed. And I hope you guys all enjoyed this 49ers news update. Hope you guys all have a great Wednesday. Hope you enjoy yourselves and stay safe. And remember, the right way is always the 49ers.